Joining me on the virtual porch swing today for the Godly Woman podcast is a life coach, a mentor for women, a motivational speaker, an author, the director of Journey for Women, the wife of singer-songwriter Chuck Day, and the mother of three beautiful women. Selena Day is sitting down with me today, and she's going to talk about her heart for empowering women to be all that God created them to be. She is also going to talk to us about our desires and dreams and how to not lose those in our everyday, day-to-day to-do list, as well as rediscovering those dreams if we have lost them. Stick around. Godly women of the internet, welcome. I am Krista Nicole, and I am so glad that you're joining me today. If this is your first time here, you are listening to the Godly Woman podcast, where we encourage women to walk in faith with the Heavenly Father. And how we do so is by having conversations on the virtual porch swing about life, business, ministry, relationships, and what being a godly woman really looks like in today's world, and even for tomorrow. So welcome. I am so glad that you're here. Be sure to hit subscribe from wherever you're watching so that you get notifications every time that we go live or publish something new. Also, be sure to head on over to the website, www.kristanicoleent.com, and sign up for the newsletters, because you never know what I'll be launching out and into next. And so you guys can stay up to date on all of that information. Let's jump in. Hey girl, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for joining me on the Godly Woman podcast. It is such an honor to sit down and get caught up with you. We've got some good stuff to dig into today, and I'm super excited.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on here.
Absolutely. So let's jump in. So tell us how you got started in empowering women to be all that God created them to be. I love this so much. How did you get to that point?
Well, there's the long story and then there's the short story.
Go for it.
The short story is that I became a mother of three strong, independent women. And when they were coming into their own, I felt the Holy Spirit telling me somebody's got to become the alpha female in this life, in this family. And if you don't step up, one of them is going to do it. Right. And I was the only girl of three. And I knew how, when I was a teenager, I challenged my mother a lot in the alpha role in the household. And so I stood up and started taking authority over our situation. And through this time, the Lord started kind of downloading queen into my heart, being a queen. There's something about, at that time, princess was the big thing. Everywhere you went, you saw princess.
Right.
And the Lord was like, it is good to be a princess. I'm not saying that it's not, but, I can go to my parents' house, and I have a key to their house. I can walk in the door and I can eat anything I want to. I could even crawl in the bed and sleep if I want to. But if I went to their bank and tried to withdraw money, they wouldn't let me have their money. Right. And so the Lord showed me that in my household, Chuck at that time, my husband's a singer, and he has written lots of songs, and we would get royalty checks in the mail. Now they're downloaded into direct deposit, but at that time you used to get in the mail. And the Lord showed me that when those checks would come, if Chuck was on the road or out of town, I didn't wait for him to get home to deposit that check. I signed the back of it and put it in the bank, and we were using that money that he never even saw the check.
Right.
And the Lord said, that is how it is with me. Christ came and he's pretty much did everything he did on the cross for us. Now we have a signed check. We are queens in the kingdom of God, and we need to start taking that authority. And through that, and then a lot of other things just happened in my life but through that, I just started realizing that women don't realize their worth. And women do not realize especially in the church world, we don't realize the authority that has been given to us. Exactly. And a lot of religion has taught us that we need to be silent and quiet. And I don't want to step on anybody's toes or anything, but I don't believe that. I believe that God has given us a voice. God has given us power and authority to rule and reign in the kingdom. And so I just want to share that with other women that, you are not second class. You are not a second class citizen. You are not a neck. I always say that my husband and I both teach that he's not the head and I'm the neck. Christ is the head of our household and we co-labor together.
Amen.
And so, and there are times that we both lead at different times. And so I want other women to see that and to realize that, and not in a rebellious way, because so many times, and I'm really kind of seeing it in this culture we're in, because there's this movement of deconstructing the church or deconstructing our faith. And so many women are becoming jaded and rebellious and angry. And the Me Too movement is a great movement, but there's just so much anger that's involved with it that I don't want them to find their voice with that, because that's any kind of anger that you deal with in your life is destructive.
Sure.
I want them to find it in love and in truth and grace and peace. And so that's kind of the short of it.
That's fabulous. Oh my goodness, rich stuff. So we met not too long ago at the Inspirational Country Music Awards, and you were telling me a little bit about Journey for Women, and I want to dig into that further. So tell us what Journey for Women Ministries is.
Well, it is one of the funnest, greatest things I have ever done in my life.
Awesome.
I married Chuck when I was 22 years old, and I had never been out of the southeastern part of the United States. I had been to Alabama and Florida and North Carolina, I think, and Tennessee. My mom said I'd been to Tennessee when I was real young. And so yeah, I remember going to Rock City. But anyway, those are really the only places I had ever been. And so I married Chuck, and we started a ministry with his brother and sister-in-law, and they sang, and we started traveling all over the United States. And then in my early 40s, Chuck and I became life coaches for an organization called the World Race, where it's an extreme mission trip for young people from 21 to 35, and they traveled all over the world in 11 months.
Oh, wow.
And so in my early 30s, though, let me back up and say this. In my early 30s, Chuck did a couple of tours to Ireland. So that really was my first experience leaving the United States and the culture of the United States, and went to Ireland and to Europe. But then in my early 40s, we started traveling, and we started traveling to like Thailand and Turkey and Cambodia and Malawi. And I've been to a lot of countries, and just a lot of different cultures, and not just the European culture. And through that, I have realized that there is something about travel that opens you up to your Creator that nothing else does. There is a fear that's, I think, is a good fear. It's a tension that when you're giving that person your ticket and you're getting on a plane and you're letting someone else control how you get there, and you're going into a place that you don't really know what their culture is, you don't know what's right or wrong, you are so open to hear from the Holy Spirit. And especially too in the United States, our news media is fear, fear, fear. So most people believe that everybody in the whole world hates Americans, and that is so not true. You are a rock star if you're an American. Everybody wants to talk to you. They think you live next door to Brad Pitt and everybody in Hollywood. They don't realize how big our country is. Right. So anyway, through that, I realized that there was this amazing thing happened, that when this, expectancy and tension and nervousness and anxiety that you feel, it's all kind of good. It's not the negative kind that we do. I would open up and I'd hear the Lord, and I'd get these amazing revelations from God. And then all of a sudden I thought, I want to share this with other women. I do Queen Living. I mentor young women. I want to share this with women. So we, on our short elevator pitch. It's called, it's the ultimate eat, pray, laugh trip, because we laugh. We're like, it's hysterical how we become girly again, like, the best version of a spend the night party. And but then at the same time, we are just so open to hearing from the Lord, and God shows up every time. It is crazy how he shows up in little bitty wonderful ways. And we were in Greece on a trip one year, and this was a walking trip, and we were supposed to find these red markers, and that would lead us on our path. Because you walk through villages, you walk through wooded mountain areas, you walk through all kinds of places. And we kind of like some of the places we found, the red dot was not there, or it was so faded we couldn't tell if it was orange or what.
Oh no.
There were some orange dots too. And some of our ladies were getting real nervous. And so we just stopped. I said, let's just pray, because there wasn't a soul around. I mean, it was like siesta time. Everybody was asleep, not out. So I said, let's just stop and pray and ask the Lord. So we did. We stopped, and I said, Lord, you love us so much. We thank you for this beauty of where we're at. It's so gorgeous. Can you just please send us someone to show us, the right path to get back to where we're going? So we kept walking. And I mean, we came up on the street. We came up on this hill, and there was a street, and all of a sudden here comes this man all by himself on a motor scooter, and we wave him down, and we asked him, in our best hand language in English, and he could understand a little English, where we could go to maybe call a taxi. And he said, oh, come, just follow me down to the bottom of the hill. I own a restaurant down there. I'll call you a taxi. My friend is a taxi driver. And so, I mean, it was like out of the blue. So we walked down there. We all got us a drink and the ice cream and sat for a minute, and he called us a taxi, and then we went back to our hotel. And it was just great. I mean, it just gave such a faith builder to some of the ladies that it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if they speak your language or not. God's got your back, and he's going to take care of you. And he loves the adventure, to teach us amazing things through the adventure. So that's
awesome. So have you been able to take any trips post-COVID, or you got one coming up?
Yeah, we have one. We had it planned for September. We postponed it for next March.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to go, our website is journey4women.com.
Perfect.
Yeah, .com. And or they can just find me on Facebook, Selena Day, Brantley Day. And yes, it is the most amazing trip. We go and we choose beautiful places to go. The next trip we have is in Spain, and I'm thinking about putting one together next year for Italy as well. And some of them are walking trips, and some of them are kind of pseudo sightseeing trips, because a lot of people are not physically able to go. I mean, I could talk about this forever, but we went to Ireland one year, and it was more of a sightseeing trip. And one of the ladies there, she was 80 years old, and her bucket list was to kiss the Blarney Stone. And if you've ever been to Ireland, to kiss the Blarney Stone, it's not like a rock you just walk up to and kiss. You have to walk up these narrow staircase all the way up. Mm-hmm. 2 flights, and then you go, and it's a line. You go, and then you lean backwards, like do a back bend over a spot it's got railings. You won't fall out or anything, but you're looking down and you can see the ground, and you lean back, and that's how you kiss it. And this lady was 80 years old. Okay. She climbed up all the way up the steps. She went all the way down, and she leaned back, and everybody was helping her, and she kissed it, and she came up praising the Lord with big old tears running down her face. It was amazing. That was one of the coolest things. But anyway.
Sweet. So how many days do these trips usually last?
We usually do 7 days and 6 nights. Every once in a while, we may do one that's 8 days and 7 nights, but we don't really want to have it too long. Sure. And then we don't have a large group of people. Mm-hmm. The max that we'll do is 12. Okay. Maybe 14, but that would be ultimate max. So just to have to be, there was a lot of people wanting to go, because we like to keep it very intimate. Mm-hmm. There's something about having a multi-generational group of women together that is so beautiful, that the young ones are pulling out of us and asking questions that we didn't even know we had answers to.
I love that.
And then they are pulling out the child likeness in us and the youth, and reminding us that life is beautiful and there's still so much ahead. So it is a great thing to see.
That is awesome. Fantastic. So, I know this is something that I have personally experienced in the past, and I'm sure other women have or are right now. How common is it for women to lose themselves and lose their dreams and their desires in relationships, in their day-to-day to-do list, and et cetera? Like, how common do you see that?
Yeah. We are such nurturing creatures.
Mm.
I had a friend tell me years ago, he said, in the garden, when Adam and Eve ate of the forbidden fruit, and they all of a sudden God told woman, your heart will be for your husband and your children all the days of your life. You will have pain in childbirth and all this stuff. And he told man that you will have trouble tolling the earth, briars and everything. That will be your hardship. Well, if you really sit and talk to women and men, the two things, women are always complaining about their family and their husbands, blah, blah, blah. Men never complain about their spouse or their children. They're always complaining about their job. Oh, I wish I could go fishing. I don't want to work, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, when he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. But in that, we are such nurturing beings that we tend to we think it's selfish to take time for ourselves. And we don't really know how, because there is a movement about, talking about soul care and, taking care of yourself. But there's something about, which I feel like we have lost this in the United States, about being quiet, finding a place. And this could be just the introvert in me talking, but finding turning off the TV, turning off the radio, not listening to podcasts or messages or anything, which I recommend you listening to Kristen's podcast.
Thank you. While you're doing something else, right? Multitasking.
Yeah, before you turn it off. But anyway, and they're just getting quiet and still, and maybe journal, maybe paint, just do something that brings life to you. When I went through a very difficult time in my life, I remember every day I would paint, and I would, in the morning time, I'd go out and I'd have my hot tea on my porch. And in the afternoon, I would, all day long, all I did was play video games and listen to Enya. And it sounds funny and strange, but that was such a healing time for me, because I had to stop everything I was doing. Wow. And I remember talking to the Lord during that time and saying, but God, because from the minute I became a Christian, I have always been an avid studier of the word. I loved it. It was like the Bible just came alive to me. And every night I would read and have my devotion time. I was taught that was ingrained in me. That was very important. So when I came to this place in my life, it was like I hit a wall, and the Lord said, I just couldn't read my Bible. When I read it, it was like clanging. It was just nothing there. It was just words. Yeah. And it was almost like it was a foreign language of words I couldn't understand. And I talked to the Lord, and I was like, Lord, I'm not praying like I used to. I'm not reading my Bible. And he said, Selena, what have I required of you? And I said, but God, this is what I've been taught. I'm supposed to pray. I'm supposed to keep a, journal. I'm supposed to blah this. And he said, no, I'm not saying what that you've been taught, Selena. What have I required of you? And I just sat there and I thought, nothing. You haven't required anything of me. And he said, well, that's it. Just sit. You're talking to me. And I did for probably a couple of months. I just sat. That's all I did. And we still traveled, we still ministered, we still did the things. But when I was at home, I shut down. And it was so beautiful. I didn't realize how much I needed that at that time, because I was still having to do the things like take care of my family. Right. But Chuck has always been a huge help of when I needed help, just to step in. And that is a huge thing, is finding a life partner that is going to be by your side and consider themselves a life partner and not a boss, not a life boss, not a life,
Right.
Find somebody that is really going to be a partner with you and step in the places that you need them to, and vice versa, because when you do stop, it's almost like that for Christians, the busier we are, the more holy we think we are. And that is not true. That is so not true.
Amen.
When you get around, and especially because when you come to things like where I met you at that convention or any kind of revivals or conferences, everybody starts trying to, give their bio or what they've been doing and what, how large their church is or how many places they've been in saying. And there is the opposite as well, as those that go the opposite extreme. Like, I don't take money. I don't do this, and I don't try to seek out the Lord. The people, I don't promote myself. And that's all pride. Both extremes are pride.
Yeah.
And so we have to just stop and say, and be real with God. If we're going to be real with anybody, because he's just is probably laughing when we're not, because he sees inside of us, and the one who created us knows us better than we know ourselves. So it's just, that's so important to take care of yourself and be real with yourself and be real with God and have honest, real conversations with God. And it makes us a better minister. It makes us a better person. It makes us a better singer. It makes you more authentic. And especially in America right now, and the younger generation, they're wanting authenticity, not fake authenticity where it's like, oh, let you see let me cuss at you. Let me, do this and that and the other, and show you how authentic I am. That's not real authenticity. That's, just being angry. And so I just really think it's so important to take care of ourselves, and in a real way though, too, like I'm saying, just a real honest way, not just go and have a pedicure, which is important too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
That's important too.
The world's like, you should do this, you should do that, for self-care. But like you said, you've got to figure out what the thing or things are for you. And I do agree that the still quietness is huge in society, and it does make us feel guilty. If I sit down and I'm not multitasking, I feel guilty. So yes, it is. It is an issue.
It is a huge issue. I miss Mr. Rogers. I grew up under Mr. Rogers, and I miss Mr. And I pray that more Mr. Rogers will come out. And I was watching, because my grandson loves Daniel Tiger, which is a offshoot of the Mr. Rogers now. And I was going back and watching an old episode, because I like to put on the old ones, and he listens to the music, and he's like, okay, the music's the same, but what is this man doing here, doing the same stuff that Daniel does? But anyway, so I was watching one of them, and Mr. Rogers was talking to the children, and he said, let's watch the clock, and we're all going to just sit quietly for 1 minute. And then he sat there, and I thought, wow,
that was more powerful than
it was so powerful. I know. I thought, because you can't even stop and put gas in your car without a TV,
right?
With advertisement. You can't go into a restaurant without TVs everywhere. And I read an article a couple of years ago that a lot of restaurants are making their acoustics where if you just notice this when you go to a restaurant, especially that you're a singer. Some restaurants will have the soundproof roof, the ceiling, and it will be lower. You don't find those much anymore. They're all high, the acoustics, and they've got the pipes and everything. And it's so that when people are talking, it sounds louder than it is. And it sounds like you're in a party atmosphere. And they've done a lot of study and found that, and this could change because millennials are getting older, but that millennials loved that, going to where it felt like a party atmosphere. So restaurants were doing this on purpose. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But between that and then the TVs and then everybody talking, you don't have solitude or quietness anymore. So
right. Absolutely.
So important.
Good stuff. So you had mentioned it a little bit earlier. You are actually a Queen Living life coach. Tell us more about that.
Well, gosh, this kind of accidentally fell in my lap where because I was a life coach for the world race, and I started finding a lot of the young women wanted me to talk to them all through the race. They wanted to Skype, they wanted to, now we would Zoom or FaceTime. There's from when I first started this till now, there is a plethora of platforms out there that you can talk on, which I love. Is awesome. And so women just started reaching out to me wanting to have me help them. And the thing is that what people don't realize is that a life coach is not a counselor. I don't have a counseling degree, even though I have done tons of counseling beginning in the ministry. I feel like sometimes I could have a counseling degree, sure. But being a life coach is a kind of a person that asks the hard questions. You know, like, you tell me your dream, first of all, then what are you doing to make that dream happen? Sure. And giving you practical steps to make that happen. And but also a life coach, because I've met some women that are life coaches and they're kind of mean, and I don't want to be mean. And because it is, a coach, you think about a football coach, sometimes they're screaming. I don't know if you remember the scene in with Tom Hanks in A League of Their Own, where he's yelling at the girl. Yes. and he says, my coach, said all these horrible things to me. And that was when my parents came to see me. And so coaches sometimes are hard, but I don't want to be hard. I want to be kind and gentle and say, let's think about this in a different way. And one thing I have discovered about myself over the years is, I don't know if I'm left-handed, but I'm ambidextrous. So I don't know if it has to stem from that, but I don't really think a lot in the same way other people do. And so I have found in my own life, I surround myself with people that think differently than me. I value that in my life because I have felt like something was the right thing. Too many times I've stepped out doing that thing and then been out there alone, like, okay, nobody else sees this like I see it. But I think it's also an asset that I bring to the table with wherever I go. Absolutely. But I always ask questions of my close friends, and I only have a few of these women that I just, okay, tell me what you think. Am I thinking about this the right way, or what should I do? And I think that is what a life coach should do, is and I feel like that's my asset, is that I come and I listen to what she's saying. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I have a young girl that I mentor. She's a missionary in Nepal, and she loves it because the Holy Spirit will just give me an assignment for her. And she said, I love my assignments from you. Oh. And so it's just different things like that. And then there's so many now personality quizzes you can take to kind of discover what your strengths are. And I just help them connect the dots to getting their dream. And sometimes maybe they're just walking through a hard time in their life and they need somebody to help them focus on where they're going. Because something happens to us when we hit our 30s that all of a sudden our childhood traumas start kind of coming up, and we kind of get lost in that moment, and we don't know who we are anymore, and we don't know our identity. And we're usually around that time we're married and having children and trying to do a career. And it's nice to have somebody to say, hey, this is what I see in you. This is what I see. And this is the dream that you said you have. So is that dream needs to be put on the back burner for a minute? Because that's okay as well. Sure. For you to focus only on your family or what, and I think we all need that personally. So it's just kind of, that's how it happened. I love it when I do it. And especially when you got somebody that's really wanting to do the work. They're there to do the work. They want you to dig deep and that's then when it gets fun.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, we all need that in our lives. So is there a specific point that we should roll over and consider it, or is it like go get one today?
I don't know. I think we all need someone in our life to help life coaches.
Sure,
I really do. I think that there's a buzzword of life coach now, and I've used that, so I'm not negative about it. But at the same time, we always need parentals. I call it parentals, in our life, because a lot of time it's hard to hear from your parents, because you have all this emotional baggage from your childhood that may trigger you. And not saying that your parents are, even the best parents, we all do something. We're not perfect. And so it's nice to find someone that is, and that's just kind of what a life coach kind of does, or for me and my philosophy is, I don't want to treat you like a child, but at the same time, I want to help encourage you to grow up and pull your big girl panties up and be a grown up. And a lot of times when we're in that early 30s, we still want to run to mom and dad, and I don't mean like literally, I mean like we want to cry about everything. And not even if you're not a crier, it may manifest in another way. You might want to be mean to everybody, or and then you feel guilty for being mean, or whatever. It all comes out in some different way. So just having someone to kind of parent you is so important. And so I think that you need to, first of all, that's the greatest lesson, is you need to ask yourself, do I think I need this right now? Mm-hmm. And if you do, then seek someone out that you can talk to. And that's so important, because first of all, any good life coach is going to help you find your true identity and because I'm going to use this for an example. I work in the music industry with my husband, but I'm not a singer. I don't even claim to be a singer. But if I had gone out and said, my dream is to be a singer and stand on a stage and sing to millions of people, but I don't know how to sing, a good life coach would say to me, Selena, is that really what you need to do? Right. Is there other ways you can be involved in this arena without singing? And I feel like that is kind of what has happened to me, because I'm sometimes amazed that I have a voice in this arena in Christian country music, because I don't sing. I didn't grow up singing, but being around Chuck and having to learn life skills and to how to operate in this arena, it's been so valuable for me that I have been able to make myself a place at the table there. And so that's what a good life coach would have done. And thankfully I was never that clueless about my strengths and weaknesses that I didn't try to get up and sing. Anyway, so that's important to why you need a life coach. And so I would just, that question is either or, which depends on where you are in life and what you need. But you've got to know yourself first and ask yourself the question, am I just going around in circles? And if I'm going around in circles, why am I going around in circles and not going forward?
Exactly.
Do I need somebody to help me know that maybe I am going in circles, but I'm still ascending, but I don't see it because I keep seeing the same tree as I pass by, even though maybe my perspective is a little different.
Sure.
And, or am I just, where am I? And so I just think that's an individual thing, but I do highly recommend having a life coach or a parental in your life.
That's good. Good stuff. Good stuff. So what, on a personal level, what do you love most about coaching other women and helping them, reach that goal or rediscover their dreams? Like, what is the height of that for you?
Oh, look, just watching them grow and just seeing them succeed. One thing that Chuck and I believe, I think competitiveness is good. So when I say this next statement, don't think that I don't mean that. I think that when you are competitive, which I think is why to me it's so important that we come together with our peers in whatever genre or organization or whatever you're in, whether you're in the ministry or whether you are my children are, they build websites. They're, they have a marketing firm in Atlanta. And whatever your field that you're working in, it's so amazing to come together with your peers, because you see somebody doing it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're doing like the best thing ever. You see somebody there doing it a little better than you.
Sure.
And you're like, and it makes you up your game. So there's something amazing about that tension, you know, and competitiveness that I think is a good thing. But at the same time, Chuck and I believe that when one rises, we all rise. As one comes to the top, then it lifts us off. Sure. So the height for me is watching it click for somebody and watching them step into the place that they outgrow me. I love it when that happens, because then I'm not
there's no crutch there anymore.
Yeah.
It's like,
there's no crutch.
Been set free.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You fly and go. And we laugh at my work, because one of the ladies I work with, because I work part-time at a rape crisis center, and that happened because of COVID. But anyway, we were laughing the other day, and one of the ladies was saying, she said, I hate people who name drop. And I said, I love people who name drop, and I love name dropping too. Because I love hearing people's story. And this woman actually shared one of her stories with me. She used to do makeup and hair at CNN, and she told me she got to do Nelson Mandela's makeup. And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, I would have loved to meet Nelson Mandela. I mean, he literally has changed the whole continent of Africa, not just South Africa. And I said, was an amazing leader. And she was like stunned that I, thought that was crazy. So anyway, I just loved watching people succeed. And for me, I can say, oh, I knew them when.
Right. That's awesome. I love that. So, you have actually written a book off of Queen Living things. Tell us more about that, the title and all of that.
If I was really, I'll send you a picture. If I was really smart, I would have had one with me.
We'll put the information in the link.
It's there. You can get them on Amazon. It's called Queenisms by Selena Day. When you go to purchase it, I do not consider myself a writer, even though God has used me in that field. And I love it. It's just a little bit of my story of where Queenisms came from. And then it's just little one-liners. It's like for women, it's kind of a little bit like a devotional, but not quite like a devotional. And it's just one-liner little quotes. Like, I'll just use this one because it's one I used before. My great grandmother always said, powder and paint makes you look like what you ain't. And then I added on it, and thank God for that. So that would be, that would be a Queenism. And then another Queenism is, if you feel like you don't have purpose, put your hand over your heart and feel your heartbeat.
Good stuff.
There's purpose there. You've got something that God wants you to use in your life.
I love that. So you've got a journal too. Does the journal go with the book, or is the journal standalone? Is the journal just for the trips?
Well, you can use the journal for whatever. I have had women purchase them, and they love the journal as well. The journal came about because of the trips that we did. Okay. We at first were giving them a journal because we asked them to try to journal through the day. And then we would come up with questions kind of for them to think about during the day. So I was like, well, why don't we just do our own journal, And so I sat down and just kind of wrote a journal, put it together, and it's just kind of questions that I think are important that I wish someone had told me to ask the first time I left the United States and went overseas. Because the first time I left the United States, I had a 9-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old daughter. And we took our 10-year-old daughter with us, and we left our 9-year-old daughter at home for 2 weeks. And it was so wonderful and hard and amazing and beautiful. But I heard God talk to me in so many different ways and so many levels that I wish someone had given me questions to ask.
Right.
And so that's kind of what I sat down and thought about. And I thought, what would I like to know? Or someone had asked me the first time I left and went on an adventure.
I love that. And we will put the links in the description so everybody can go check those out. How can we connect with you on the social platforms? You gave us the website. You can give that to us again. How can we join in Journey for Women for the upcoming trips and all of that?
Okay. Well, you can find me on Facebook.
Okay.
Of course, that's our big now town square. You know, it's our, everybody goes on there and talks.
Right.
And but then my website for Journey for Women is journey4women.com.
Okay.
And you can go on there and you can email me through there. And I think there might be a link for Queenisms. Queenisms is, I think it's queenisms.org.
Okay.
Oh, it's queenliving.org. Sorry.
Queenliving.org. Okay.
Yeah. I've been working more with Journey for Women in the last couple of years than I have Queen Living.
I got you.
And I forgot that.
You're good.
And that's, so Journey for Women is the better place to get me, but queenliving.org, you can send me a message through there as well. And those are the best ways to get hold of me.
Awesome. Well, we'll
I would love for you to reach out to me, anybody.
Absolutely. We'll put all of that in the description as well. So last question. I hate that our time's come to an end. This has been so soul-wrenching. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
If there is one piece of advice that you could offer to a godly woman in any season of life, what would it be?
Learn to like yourself and like your company, because you'll be with yourself more than you'll be with anybody else.
Good.
My youngest daughter, she lives in New York now, but became a time in her life that she stopped letting just having to go someplace by herself keep her from going. And she would go to the movies by herself. She's traveled by herself. And if you're not happy with the person you are, you're not going to be happy with anybody else, because nobody else will. Maybe temporarily they will be able to, but I love that my daughter discovered that about herself. That's because awesome. It is really true. You cannot run from yourself.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
So did she do something? Was there something practical that she did? Did she have an event that flipped the switch for her?
Well, all my girls were homeschooled, and her being the last one, my daughter one of our daughters moved out. One of them went to Spain and to school. And so she was left alone by herself, and that being homeschooled, and she was in the transition of, she had already finished high school. She didn't know where she was going to go next and what to do next. And I know she was very lonely. It was a very lonely season for her, and a hard season, but she went and got a job working in a bookstore, and she just started doing things. I think when she was in the bookstore, she kind of started having friends, but then she realized, friends are transient, it depends on where you are in life and stuff. And then she became a nanny, and then she accidentally became we call her Insta famous. She started going out with groups of people on Instagram, taking pictures just on her iPhone. And we left Atlanta and flew to South Africa. And by the time we had gotten to South Africa, she had over 40-something thousand followers on Instagram.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so through all that, now she works at a big marketing firm. She just went and spoke at a conference in Indiana about marketing and social media. And, but anyway, so I think it may have been a journey through that time period that she realized that she had to go out by herself to get photos and stuff, that she just started losing the fear that I'm not going to worry, if nobody goes with me, I can go with myself. And so I think
because of her empowering godly woman mama.
Hopefully.
That's awesome, man. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you'll join me again to talk about some more godly woman topics, because I feel like we could talk for forever. It's so soul rich.
I would love that.
And I appreciate you joining me so much. We hope that you all will take the next steps to pursue rediscovering or discovering your desires and your dreams, and that you will share this podcast with them, with somebody that you know who's also in that situation. And we just appreciate you joining us so much. Be sure to check out all the links in the description for all the things ministry that we've talked about. Be sure to reach out to both of us. We would love to chat with you, pray with you, and join you in ministry as we march on towards the finish line. Yeah. Remember, when you walk with Jesus, he will give you the strength to carry on. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, the power of a godly woman. You got the strength to give.